Thank you to everyone who threw some money towards the safety gear on the wish list. It was huge, helped me recoup the costs from those. And also, thank you to everyone who sent information about our journey south and places to stop and recommendations and hazards to be aware of. When that video went out on Friday morning, by Saturday morning, I had over 80 emails, and by Monday, I had over 100. So if you haven't heard back from me, it is just because there is too much to respond to. I sorted everybody into kind of geographical location. So as we go south, when we get down to the Carolinas, we'll pull up that section and see if any of the offers make sense. We've been making use of it as we go south. So you may or may not hear from us, but know that your email was read, notes were taken, and we are using all of that information. It would be, if I were to sit down and respond to everybody, it would take me a couple days. So thank you, we really appreciate it, and so far it's been immensely helpful.
This week, Arabella, with a crew of 3, will make it down the Jersey coast, and then they'll make an unexpected stop in a small town steeped in the history of the oyster. Don't forget to like and subscribe and become a member on Patreon to help keep these stories coming your way. But we start where we left off last week, just south of New York City at the north point of the New Jersey coast.
We need a big breakfast to keep us warm today. Our body needs lots of calories.
That's no joke.
It's there's literally it looks like frost out there. So, warm breakfast burritos.
Thank you.
You're very welcome. Notice how mine is twice the size of Steve's. I can put down some calories. I'm proud of it. Akiba is...
He's like, I smell bacon.
Oh, you gave me a piece earlier when you were cooking. I just thought maybe I could have another one.
All right, well, let's fuel up, weigh anchor, go get some fuel, grab Peter, and shoot the Jersey Shore.
Shoot the Jersey Shore. I can't believe the weather lined up for us this well. This is such a gift.
Knock on wood.
Yeah.
You might remember Peter from all the way back in Boothbay, Maine. He provided the dock where all the work to Arabella was done and kept the crew stocked with lobsters from his own traps. Steve was looking forward to having an experienced sailor on board for a few days, and he got right down to it, figuring out details like making up the watch list. 4 hours on and 8 off would let all 3 of them share the load of manning the helm 24 hours a day.
Operating in all these layers is super easy and comfortable and convenient for anyone who is wondering. 10 out of 10 would recommend.
Yeah, there's nothing like having to pee and having to take off 3 jackets and bibs to get down there.
Oh my gosh, it's so laborious. I can't wait for warmer weather.
Oh, me too.
I'm so ready.
We're moving on our way there.
We're moving. We're moving quickly, and honestly, I set my expectations. I thought, I was like, today is going to be the worst day of my life. I had built it up to that. Like, not even kidding. I was just like, there's not going to be any other day where I suffer as much as this day. Quite honestly, it really hasn't been that bad.
Knock on wood.
I know. Yeah. Oh, all right, shall I go relieve Peter?
Yeah.
Chocolate for the road.
We'd like to take a moment now to thank the sponsor of today's video, the Woodworkers Guild of America. The Woodworkers Guild of America website is packed with everything you need to take your woodworking skills to the next level. Tons of instructional videos and other resources to help you tackle anything from beginner projects to learning advanced techniques. They've just added a new video to their section on hand tools, which should be of interest if you've been watching Arabella get built over the years. There's also tons of content on joinery, finishing, furniture making, the list goes on and on. Plus, they have live streaming tutorials and Q&As with woodworking experts, like having a personal woodworking mentor right at your fingertips. And now you can join this incredible community for just $1.49, but there's a catch. This exclusive offer is only for the first 1,000 of our viewers who click the link in the video description below. That link will take you straight to the Woodworkers Guild of America, where you can get a whole year of premium membership for just $1.49. Don't miss out on this chance to elevate your woodworking skills and join a passionate community of fellow creators. Click the link below and get building. Having made great time through the night, Arabella reached the mouth of the Delaware River and prepared to come into the Cape May Inlet without much of an idea of where to stop for the evening. So they headed first into the local marina to see what was available.
We tied up to a seawall to just get our bearings and figure things out, and the marinas are pretty expensive, and the facilities were all shut off. And the thought of navigating Arabella into these tight little slips to spend that much money to sleep for the night and wake up in the morning and leave and have to get out of there, it wasn't really great. And on Facebook, the folks from the Bivalve Center and Meerwald said that we could come up Delaware Bay and tie up with them, and they had room at the dock. So that seemed like a much better option. We left the seawall, we motored through the Cape May Canal into the Delaware and came into some decent winds on the nose, did some motor sailing, everything we could to try to get in before dark. Before we committed to coming this far, we looked at the charts, we looked at the chart plotter, we looked at Navionics, and all of them showed a 6-foot channel at low tide and that we should be able to get in. They were channel markers, seemed fairly straightforward. We hit the first marker at about sunset, and the markers are pretty spread out. And as you can see, it's just kind of a big expanse of water, and there's a little area in here that is deep enough. So we bumped bottom a couple times. We got into kind of the mouth of the river here, and we started seeing 4 foot, 6 foot, 8 foot instead of -6 inches. So we're great. Peter and I both breathed a huge sigh of relief. We're in the river, we're in deeper water, and then all of a sudden it went from 10 feet to 5 feet to 3 feet to 1 feet to we are in the mud. So we came in the dark, in dead low, which isn't ideal, but it's a calm night. We got in more than far enough to be totally protected. So we left a bunch of lights on deck to make sure that we were visible, since we were spending the night in somewhere not normally in Anchorage. We dropped the hook, let out a little bit of chain, and made some pizzas, had a beer, and went to sleep because we were beat. Tide was starting to rise, so if we had needed to, we could have waited a few hours last night and we would have floated and continued on our merry way. But we still had the rest of the river here to navigate and a dock to tie up to. So we thought it was much wiser to just stay here for the night. We were in no danger, and the tide rose, and we floated and we swung, and then the tide went down and we sat back down in the mud, and the tide has come up again, and we are floating, and we are facing out towards sea at the moment. We've got almost 3 feet of water underneath us, where before we had like -2. And the tide is still rising for another hour. So let's fire this motor up and go get onto a dock. But very casual benighting. We got stuck out someplace we didn't expect to get stuck out, and we had pizza and beer and went to bed. Really not too shabby. So next to the Meerwald here is a oyster packing company, the Bivalve packing company, and we were told that we could get oysters. And we went over, and this late in the day, our only option was 100 count. So we bought 100 oysters that we now need to eat. And this is a problem I am very happy to have.
Nice shuck.
I like that when they're like, well, you're gonna have to shuck them. I was like, I will shuck 100 oysters. No problem.
After some more oysters and downtime, Peter got busy trying to figure out why the AIS wasn't properly transmitting. Stay tuned to the end of the episode today for a special message about that and how you can now track where Arabella is in the world in real time.
So whenever people would ask, like really early on in the project, where I wanted to take the boat, really I want to go where the wind takes me. I've yet to travel somewhere that wasn't interesting and full of interesting people. And I've really found that if you have some overall goals, some stars or ideals, if you wish, that you're kind of aiming for, and you just take as the world gives along the way, you wind up in some pretty cool places. And right now, I am in one of those pretty cool places. And if we had made a really strong plan of here, here, and here, and this itinerary coming down the coast, we 100% wouldn't be here right now. And I'm really glad that we are. So the Meerwald is from back in the day when they were still oystering under sail. Imagine being out in the Delaware Bay with a whole bunch of these big sailboats dragging oyster dredges. How's that for a windlass? Whew. Get two people on there, just cranking away. There's your windlass handle. Man, these big boats operate on a different scale. Look at the size of these bungs. They're huge. Deck planks as wide as my hand. Grooves from the lines. I mean, I think you can show pictures and you can tell stories, but I think stepping on a ship like this and looking at an oyster dredge and feeling this boat out in the bay under sail and really thinking about what that must have been like, it's amazing that opportunity still exists and that foundations and organizations, keep these boats alive. And one of the ways that they keep these boats alive is by using them and taking people out on them. So if you are ever in this area, if you're ever near Bivalve, New Jersey, for some reason, you should come on down and take a trip on the Meerwald. Pretty much guarantee you won't regret it. And yeah, it's just so freaking cool. They don't make them like they used to. It's good to see them taken care of. And get out on one and enjoy it. Tell them we sent you. If I'm not mistaken, it's a Traveler. And then these mats are on either side so that when that big old block comes and flops down on deck, it doesn't beat the deck to death. And please, someone correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm pretty sure that that's what these are for. So they're beautiful, but they are also very functional. So they would harvest the oysters out on Delaware Bay, and they would bring them in here. They would be shucking the oysters, packaging them. There would be sailmakers and riggers and all sorts of businesses that went along with the industry of taking these wooden boats out on the water and harvesting oysters. So you can imagine you need to take care of the men, you need to take care of the ship, you need to process and ship all the oysters, you need to have offices to manage all of that paperwork, and everybody hung their different shingle out for what their business was. And this was, back in the day, a bustling hub of activity. This boxcar that's now the restroom is all that's left of a railway that used to link Bivalve here with the rest of the United States. So you'd have the oystermen out of the bay, fishing the oysters, catching them, bringing them in, going to the sorting and shucking houses, getting processed, getting loaded on rail cars, and rail car after rail car after rail car left here with oysters to go distribute them throughout the country. Kind of like a gold boom, like what you would think of as a gold town out west or in Alaska back in the day, where gold got discovered and a ton of people poured in and this town suddenly sprang up, and we have all these goods and we need to transport them, we have all these people, and then the railroad arrives. And apparently that's exactly what happened with Bivalve, but except with oysters instead of gold. These are old oyster dredges. And this is still how they do it modern days, to my knowledge, except these kind of dredges are large by huge because the boats are no longer sail and they have a lot more power. And dredges in the ocean for fish and other mollusks work on, to my understanding, a fairly similar principle. So to my understanding of how these work, these tines here rake across the ocean floor, the bay floor, and dislodge the oysters and any other mollusks that are there at the surface. And then they get caught up in this chain net back here, which has a series of these metal rings. And my belief with the rings is that the small oysters that you don't want and little stones or whatever will make their way through, and the bigger oysters and the bigger mollusks will stay and be caught. And you would drag this across the bottom of the ocean. This would get all filled up, and then you'd haul it up to the surface and dump it out and sort through it. So this is the backside of the storefronts. Right up there is our railroad car. And then on the back side, we have the water and Arabella. Looks like the tender's getting a little attention. I love poking around these old boats and seeing how they're built and constructed. Super neat. This is what happens when you take a wooden boat with big timbers like this out of the water. Things move and open up. But you can see they got the strap here, which will keep that from going anywhere. And they got the stern post, which is tenoned in, which means that this is pretty much allowed to just move up and down. You can see the bolts in here. And that'll, I'm sure by the end of the season, swell totally shut. Modern day temptation would be to glue it. But then if you glue it, it's gonna shrink and it's gonna crack somewhere. It's gotta give somewhere. But I would bet my bottom dollar that this and this are tendoned into here and are just allowed to slide up and down, but their alignment will not change because they're tenoned in. I can't be certain without taking it apart, but I'd pretty much bet that's what's going on in there.
Peter had been watching the weather like a hawk, trying to find the right time to take off from Bivalve. He thought there was a chance they could make some miles on his last day that he had on the boat.
Green is number 11. Yeah.
Made it a few miles out, just motoring into 15 knot winds, gusts to 20, moving half a knot, 2 knots. It was not tenable, and there wasn't much of a better place or close place to duck in. So we just turned around and hightailed it back because it was going to put us getting anywhere well after dark. It was going to be a long, exhausting day, and we were going to waste more fuel and time and energy than it was really worth. So back we came. So we got to get Arabella spun around because Peter's taking off this afternoon, and Robin and I are going to take off, just the two of us, and getting the boat spun around is going to be a little tricky. So while we have Peter's help, we're going to get Arabella scooted out. Peter's going to motor her around the river, come back to that kind of junky dock back there, and then we'll line her back into the slip. If I had more experience backing her up, I'd probably feel a little more comfortable backing her out of here, but I honestly have not had much practice or much success with backing the boat up. And with the current and the wind and the docks and the pylons and everything else going on here, I like the idea of having her on lines and just moving real slowly, releasing 1 or 2 lines at a time, always having 1 or 2 lines tied at a time, and really maintaining control of the boat so that if we do hit something, we do it slow enough that there isn't any damage. Oh, thank you so much, Peter.
Hope you have warming temps.
This is
Fair
the
winds.
warmest we've seen yet.
Yeah, and safe and somewhat speedy passages.
Yeah, thanks for helping
Yeah.
us get past New Jersey and into here.
Yeah, it was a long night, but boy, it felt good once we got in here and once it was all behind us.
Yeah.
You know, so yeah, and thanks for putting me on the helm in every shallow water situation and letting me run aground 3 times.
Well, at least it's here in the mud and not Maine on the rocks.
Yeah, it's okay.
Pretty inconsequential.
I'll take it. There are 2 kinds of sailors, those who have run aground and those who are lying about it. Yeah. Anyway.
Any words of wisdom for us before you take off and we continue our journey south?
Well, I haven't really thought about that, but I would say be careful.
Trying?
Know the weather, which you do,
Yeah.
and have fun, because even when the day is really snotty at the end of it, it feels great and it's fun.
Yeah.
Hope you experience that all the way as far south as you want to go.
Yeah, thanks.
All right.
You want a hand with these bags?
Sure. Maybe 1 or 2 of them. Yeah.
Back in Granby, when I was building Arabella, people started randomly showing up at the boathouse, and we really quickly realized that we were going to have to tell people, you cannot come here, you are not welcome, please stay away, or we were going to have to create a way and make it known so that people knew what to do when they came, and it would work for them and work for us. And I'm feeling like we need to have another conversation that's kind of similar. So we've had AIS on the boat, but it hasn't been transmitting. It's just been receiving because we've been up in Maine. We haven't been in heavy shipping areas. Just hasn't really felt that needed. But going through New York, the Chesapeake, the C&D, we really need to be receiving and transmitting and using the AIS to the full capabilities. So we got that up and running, and we've been pretty forthcoming about where we are in the journey on social media, and it did not take people long at all to figure out where we were and what our AIS number is. And people have been messaging and commenting and wanting to know how to track us and how to know where we are. As you can imagine, for us, that's a little bit of a double-edged sword. So I'm gonna have Ben put in the MMSI number and a link for where you can go download the app that you would need to be able to track Arabella and see where we are when we have the AIS turned on, which is pretty much all the time that we're moving. Our request for that is that there are times we are tied up to private docks. Robin and I, this is our home, and we do like to have a bit of privacy. We think it's great that people want to know where we are and see in real time what we're doing. You know, you can see that we're in this part of water, and then you can go over to the weather and pull it up, and you can see what kind of sea conditions we're facing and wind direction at the moment and see how fast we're moving. And we totally get that, and we are happy for people to be able to do that. The only thing that we are asking in return is just people please be respectful. If you know that we're coming in, give us a hot minute to get the anchor set and get ourselves situated before you come out in the tender. If you see that we're at a marina and it's private, please don't just come tramping down the dock. Shoot us an email and say, hey, I see that you're such and such a place. I would love to come visit. Is there a time? And we'll do our best to accommodate. And as long as, like the boathouse, we can have a happy way that works for everybody, we are fine for that information to be out. If it becomes a big issue, all I have to do is put a switch, and we can churn the AIS from receiving to transmitting anytime that we want, and we can essentially go dark unless we really have to. And I don't want to do that. I don't think we'll have to do that. I was really, really amazed with how awesome everybody was when they came to visit the boathouse. And I'm really hoping that by us giving everybody the MMSI number and how to track us, that respect and understanding is the same, and it can work well for everyone. So don't let me down.